please. That's more.
Is it a brisk fair?
Sergeant Fraser.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a small group, but we're not disheartened. We see the faces of our friends, colleagues, and officials, and we're very happy that our panelists are here joining us this afternoon. So good afternoon and a very warm welcome to all of you to this our panel discussion, as you can see, titled Annou Diskité, panel discussion on paving the way, road communication, challenges and the impact on St. Lucia's productivity. Before we begin, I would like to invite Mr. Kimbert Evans, to grace us with a short word of prayer. Could you stand, please?
Let's bow our heads for prayer. Oh Lord Jesus, we come before you yet another time. We thank you so much, Lord, for the morning session of this Productivity Awareness Week. We thank you for the lunch and thank you for allowing us to be here for this panel discussion. Help us, Lord, that all that we do, all that we say, all that we discuss may be to the furtherance of your name, Lord, and as well as the furtherance of our country, St. Lucia. Let the words of our heart and the meditation of our mind be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen.
Please be seated. Ms. Lorraine Matthew, Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Department of Infrastructure, Ports and Transport. Dr. Clarence Henry, Head of the Regional Integration Unit of the OACS. Other esteemed dignitaries, ladies, gentlemen, both in person and joining us live, a good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, and a warm welcome once again to this important conversation as part of Productivity Awareness Week, hosted under the theme, Navigating Through Disruption, Resilience, the Engine of Productivity. This afternoon's event, Annou Diskité, brings us together to examine a crucial but often overlooked issue, and that is road communication challenges and the impact on St. Lucia's competitiveness. We all know how poor road infrastructure and reliable transit can affect our daily lives, causing delays, increasing costs, and reducing efficiency for workers, businesses, school children, and public institutions. But today's discussion goes further. It goes further than looking at how these challenges impact our national productivity, but on what solutions may lie within our reach. This event is the result of a meaningful collaboration between the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, the St. Lucia Employers Federation, and the Department of Economic Development, and it represents a shared commitment to inclusive dialogue and practical problem solving, conversations that we need to have, we must have as a people, as a society, conversations that we hope will guide policy action at the end of the day. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the representatives from the public sector, the private sector, our technical experts, and our friends, though few. I'd like to recognize all of you, our invited guests here today. We are especially grateful for your presence and look forward to your contributions. It is my pleasure today to introduce today's moderator, who will guide us through this timely discussion. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Stanza Deligny, who is an economist at the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development, and Youth Economy, an adjunct lecturer, and a freelance communications specialist. With over 7 years of experience in national development, Stanza is committed to advancing socioeconomic growth through innovation and collaboration between public and private sector agencies. She has successfully coordinated and hosted noteworthy events that enhance productivity and drive economic development, as well as strengthening regional and international partnerships. Stanza holds a master's in communication and media studies, a bachelor's in economics and management, and certification in project management. Guided by her faith in Christ, she strives to bring passion, creativity, and forward thinking to everyday endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Stanza Diligny.
Thank you.
We are confident that today's exchange will spark innovative ideas and practical solutions that can shape policy and strengthen national productivity. So, though our group is small, let us make this truly a productive session, one that not only identifies challenges, but as we see, paves the way for concrete solutions. Madame et Messieurs, Annou Diskité.
Thank you. Thank you for that warm introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Annou Diskité, Paving the Way. Today, we'll focus on road communication, challenges and solutions, and the impact on St. Lucia's economy, exploring how our road infrastructure influences both productivity and national competitiveness. This session will help us better understand the issues, highlight practical solutions, and create space to share perspectives that can shape national dialogue on building a more resilient and efficient road network. Our panel brings together key voices from infrastructure, from the emergency services to transport, law enforcement, and of course the private sector, all united by one goal: improving how St. Lucia moves. We'll keep the discussion interactive and insightful, and near the end, we'll open the floor for any questions that you may have. You know, we would love an engaging audience. With that, let's begin by hearing our speakers. I'd like each of you to please briefly introduce yourselves and share a little bit about the work that you do to better St. Lucia. Mr. Barnard.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicholas Barnard. I'm proud honor of being chairman of the NCPC. I'm also first vice president of the Manufacturers Association and first vice president of the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce. This has been a passionate road for me. I've been speaking about this for maybe 10 or 15 years, about our road congestion, so an ideal forum to discuss.
Thank you very much for that introduction.
Sergeant Fraser, attached to the Department of Road Safety. At that department, I'm an investigator. Also, I am a police motorcyclist rider. Okay. So my primary function is to patrol the highways on a daily basis through the traffic and try to alleviate any congestion where necessary. I also supervise at the department.
Okay, thank you very much, you both, for that introduction.
Okay, my name is Isidore Brisfair. I'm a retired police officer. Like the sergeant, I used to be, during my police tenure, I was on police motorcycle for some time. But from the traffic, I moved on to the Marine unit where I spent the majority of my career. However, after I retired from the police, I joined the transportation sector. I used to be at Courtesy Taxi, but now I'm solely at Southern Taxi. And the road management, road communications is very important to us, because unlike the minibus sector that on the routes they stop in Castries, with the taxis we have to go all the way up to the north where most of the hotels are located. So that is very, very important to us.
Thank you.
Hey, afternoon. I'm Chadwick Julius Prince Foshe. I'm a firefighter attached to the St. Lucia Fire Service for over 26 years. I've worked at a few domestic stations and the Aerodrome Fire Station. I'm also a response driving instructor for the St. Lucia Fire Service.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Renata Philogen Maki. I'm the first female chief engineer for St. Lucia, And the only female up here I noticed.
Happy to have you representing with me.
My mandate at the ministry, we're responsible for national infrastructure development, which encompasses not only our road network and bridges, but also public buildings, the development as well as the maintenance of those and the administration. Aside from that, we also respond when we have any national any event that impacts St. Lucia. We are responsible for doing the assessment, for rehabilitation, and also for giving the all clear for persons to go out and continue. So we're responsible for road safety as well. And I'm very happy to be here this afternoon on this program.
Okay, thank you. Happy to have you, Renata.
Okay, and finally me, Cyprian Yard. I am a retired career public servant. Served at the Ministry of Agriculture for 10 years, then the Ministry of Health for another 25 years. I have been involved in the public transportation sector for quite some time, which is almost 25 years on a part-time basis. Now I'm full-time. I also represent the National Council on Public Transportation. I'm the General Secretary out there and integrally involved in all of the negotiations and activities that takes place alongside the President for matters referring to public sector and commuter transport, commuter transport in St. Lucia. We have challenges, but before challenges, I must say thank you to the National Competitive and Productivity Council and association, by association, the Insurance Federation, for having us as part of this dialogue. It is important to us because our voices must be heard throughout the length and breadth of this country in terms of the issues that impact the public sector and how we move the nation to enable people to be productive in this country. So, as the discussion unfolds, you will hear more of me.
Thank you very much, and we are very grateful to have each and every one of you. So to just kick off the discussion, Mrs. McKee, so just so that we have a grounding, a general understanding of what it's like to be at the Department of Infrastructure, what are the biggest challenges your team faces in maintaining and upgrading St. Lucia's road network, and how do these affect your daily mobility and the traffic flow?
Some of the biggest challenges for us, I would say, in terms of maintaining our road network would be the topography and climate.
Okay.
We are all hearing about climate change and the impact it has on society. So for us, climate change, that increases the weather events that we would have. That causes our road to deteriorate even quicker. Another challenge we're faced with would be our aged infrastructure. We have, for instance, AMCO culverts and some on our roadway, and they're there for many years, in some instances, over maybe even 50 years. Mm-hmm. So these are failing, and they're failing all at the same time. Mm-hmm. Funding is another concern. The funding for sure, it is not sufficient for the demand that we have in terms of our road maintenance. So sometimes it appears that we are doing emergency maintenance as opposed to our routine maintenance. Yes. However, because of the limited funding, so we have to reprioritize sometimes. We would be on one road, the demand is somewhere else, and we would have to pull out from a certain area and go to another where the demand is even higher. We have, for instance, if we have the commuters, the minibus drivers in a certain area that is really bad, we would have to leave, as I explained, and go to that area to service. Urban growth is another issue. With urban growth and congestion, we have increased ownership of vehicles. Everybody now practically owns a vehicle. You may have households of 3 persons and 3 vehicles, or even 4 sometimes are parked there. So you have increased volume of traffic and congestion. Operational impacts for us, longer commute times. we have higher vehicle operating costs and reduced road safety. That too is another issue that we're faced with when it comes to our road maintenance.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And that was just basically for us to get an idea of what are the challenges faced, because I know later on in the discussion we will look at the solutions and looking at infrastructure vision 2030 and to let the country know exactly what are we dealing with and what are our solutions towards it so that they can have a holistic picture of what exactly is going on in St. Lucia. So thank you very much for that. I would now ask Mr. Sergeant Fraser, from your perspective, what are the most pressing traffic management challenges you face on a daily basis?
When you say pressing,
From your perspective.
there are lots, especially within the morning, the peak hour traffic. You have vehicles exiting from minor roads, you have the heavy haulage vehicles on the road, you have the commuters, minibus drivers, you have new road users and current road users all utilizing one stretch of road. You have the Badlil, which is a very hilly area. You have trucks on it slowing down. You have vehicles building up in traffic. In the north of the island, you have, as I indicated, the small junctions, so you have a lot of persons entering and exiting. There are quite a few. So to specify, you can't really pinpoint one.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for giving us that holistic picture of the challenges. And Mr. Yard, from your perspective, what specific problems in the road network made it harder for you and your team to operate efficiently and safely, just so that we have an idea?
When we look at the public transportation sector and the routes that they service, we have, in the first instance, very small roadway.
Yes.
And vehicles parked on either side of the road, making it even more difficult to traverse. The public bus, in a sense, wants to get to and from its destination to put commuters in place where they are supposed to. So this coming from the primary destination to the secondary destination as quick as possible, without undue delays. However, one of the biggest challenges is the extreme delays that we encounter on a daily basis because of, one, the topography of our streets, very small roads, backed up by traffic, people coming from either sides. And the other issue has a lot to do with our own human behavior, our own intolerance, because we never want to yield for another, only to ease the traffic congestions. So therefore, it complicates. Sorry about it. Therefore, it complicates matters even more, and as a result, what is happening is what should have been, let's say, a 15-20 minute commute now turns into a 30-45 minute commute. It does not augur well for the population that we are required to move on a daily basis, because we are looking at things that, if we're looking at productivity, we want people to arrive on time, safe, to and from the destinations.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Well, our first responder, Mr. Fauché, how do current road conditions and traffic patterns impact your ability to respond quickly and safely to emergencies? Would you like me to repeat it?
No, that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Globally, fire services are response agencies,
Yeah.
and St. Lucia is no exception. There are three major components as it pertains to response. The roadworthiness of that response vehicle, the driver having the requisite knowledge and skills to maneuver that vehicle safely and under control at all times, and very importantly, the road network having the capacity to accommodate road users. And when I speak of road users, I'm talking about from pedestrians all the way to heavy-duty vehicles. Presently, our current road network and traffic flow pose probably one of the greatest challenges for us. Therefore, it impacts our response time, which is critical for life safety and also fire spread as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Mr. Brisfair, from a driver's perspective, because I really needed us to get an overview as to the challenges directly in the government service, but I would like to hear also from the private sector, and you as a representative, from the driver's perspective, how do these challenges affect taxi operations and passenger experience? You can also lean on tourism as well, being currently our main economic driver.
Okay, thank you for the question.
You're welcome.
But those challenges, as I indicated earlier, severely affects our operations because, as I indicated, most of the resorts are in the north of the island. And Iwandoura International, which is the gateway to St. Lucia, is located at the south. Mm-hmm. And unlike the minibus sector that stops or the route ends in the city, we have to navigate all the way to the north. Now, visitors coming to St. Lucia, they have traveled for a long time before they get here. And they're seeking to get to their destination as quickly as possible.
And safely.
And safely, so at least they can rest, they can recuperate, because flying into St. Lucia, you have to have the preparation time, depend on what state they are coming from. And when they get here, to be stuck in traffic, it gives them a very bad experience. Because when they go back, they always have the opportunity to refer their experience to family and friends. And if it's very bad, it will have other persons to choose other destinations rather than St. Lucia. So for that, we are really advocating to have secondary roads or other roads to access the north of the island instead of coming through the city. We have recently observed the frequent use of that back road going through Tuapito, up to Bocage, down to Union, Grand Riviere, and lots of my colleagues' taxis are using that. But I think there's also another back road going through Babuno and up through Moshi that can also be utilized. But we'll be advocating for proper signage on that road if we are to use it, because drivers don't like to navigate roads that they do not know or they're not familiar with.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Barnard, how has congestion, the delays, and road conditions affected not only your company but the organizations that you're affiliated with in terms of productivity and costs? Can you even give some examples of how these inefficiencies impact your businesses and the wider economy?
I think that this particular issue is in the top 3 issues for manufacturers and for the Chamber of Commerce. Essentially, when you're trying to provide services or you're delivering goods up north and you're spending an hour on the road, an hour and a half, if you're coming out of cul-de-sac and you're trying to do 3 trips for the day, you're not going to do 3 trips, you're going to do 2 trips. Essentially, when I look at tonnage delivered by my company, let's say in the late 90s, I was using 3 trucks to do what I have to use 5 trucks to do now for the same tonnage delivered, essentially because I cannot turn the trucks around. If I'm sending a truck up to pick up goods, an hour and a half up, pick up the goods, an hour and a half down, process the goods, and an hour and a half back up again. So hardly any time to process goods, lot of additional costs, loss of productivity. Similarly, a lot of hotels have been supplied by CPJ or other companies like that, and they cannot get the turnaround. We have 2,000 more hotel rooms going in up north when we look at Ayla, etc. How are we going to do that? How are we going to turn those goods around? How are we going to service those hotels? And it's a challenge. Essentially, you have water trucks on the road, you have delivery trucks on the road. every single hotel employee now has their own vehicle. There are a lot of challenges, and essentially it is in the top 3 discussions that we have regularly.
Wow, thank you very much. So as we could see, there are many challenges, and some of them, they do cross over. Mr. Yard, we've been hearing so much about, those private vehicles, and everybody is owning their vehicles, but there's a reason why, because it's the transportation system perhaps that we may need to improve. So I'm just asking, has there been any planning or steps towards a well-timed, reliable and scheduled public transport system in St. Lucia? Could such a system perhaps help reduce congestion, but also offer people a convenient alternative to buying the private vehicles? Because this sounds like it's really, if we get this one, at least we can move to become more productive and decrease costs.
In every community and every country, there are going to be these challenges. The ownership of a private motor vehicle is a status symbol, and it will remain a status symbol throughout any country in this world. Therefore, when an individual decides to purchase a motor vehicle, whether they're going to use it for only domestic and social purposes or for commuting to and from work, is a personal decision. The National Council on Public Transportation we have endured the question throughout as to how do we create the atmosphere or create a service where people can find the comfort in traveling on the public bus system on a daily basis as opposed to buying a private motor vehicle. But given the challenges that we have in terms of the supporting policies, whether it is public and private, that it hinders that kind of progress. Timely services are not possible because of the fact that we operate a fleet of vehicles. When I say we, it's all individually owned, and there is absolutely very little control over how an individual operator maneuvers or manages his vehicle. So therefore, I can't force him to be on the queue or on service and on a particular day at a particular time for a number of hours. In some areas, we have some commuter drivers who operate 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day, only to make it happen. But the challenges of the road network complicates those issues. It does. Therefore, we are now into discussion as to what can we do, whether we bring in larger service vehicles or if there is any leadway in designing a system where there is priority routes and priority transport. So therefore, you're able to move freely within certain lanes, but unfortunately, the infrastructure that we have does not accommodate that kind of a system. We have the challenges too of designated routes, that you are no longer able to move away from the designated route and to pass, like my fellow taxi man said, to pass in a back road. These are challenges within the system that, if not addressed quickly, we will continue to have the problems, and the purchase of individually owned vehicles is going to be on the rise for a long time, until such time when people will realize it's counterproductive.
Okay, thank you for that. So from my understanding, there is discussion.
Yes, there is discussion. And in fact, the last service report that we have, we are now engaged in studying this report very, very critically to come up with plausible solutions as to what are the best approaches. The other thing that we have to observe is the profitability to commuter operators. We are now operating a system with a bus fare that is at least 13 years old since the last review. So therefore, it is a frustrating thing that we can't bring in the quality of the buses that we want, because of the cost factor. It does not warrant it. So therefore, there's a lot under discussion, and it's under negotiations.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yard. We'll get back to you. Perhaps we can have some collaboration even from this discussion. Mr. Sergeant Frazier, what improvements in road communication or coordination could most enhance response times and public safety? No problem. What improvements in road communication or coordination could help enhance response times and public safety?
Okay. First of all, proper dialogue between the road users, the different organizations, minibus, taxi, and also infrastructure. Secondly, the adherence to proper signage. Once proper signage are placed along the different routes, we would agree that there are certain places based on the road structure, it doesn't allow for the volume of traffic that we have. So all these things need to be looked at and find alternative routes. Also, engaging the public in PSAs when roadworks are being done ahead of time to alleviate the backlog of traffic. These are a few things we can do.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm sure from infrastructure, we're currently working on that issue with signage. I believe even tourism is also working on that. So, and the issue with the communication as well, I mean, I know that everybody knows social media and I've seen that the Department of Infrastructure as well has begun using that freeware mechanism as well. So that's a step in the right direction, because if we can get that under control, then at least we would be solving one issue, because right now we don't want to focus really on the challenges. If we can find one solution, then that's already a plus. So it's not solving everything. We're not playing Superman here today. But if we could just solve one at a time, I think we could solve a lot. But thank you very much for your insights. And for our engineer, Mrs. McKee, many solutions sometimes feel like road projects are reactive rather than proactive. How is the ministry ensuring today's road investments meet future traffic and climate demands, especially given public concerns about the back road upgrades? Why is the project strategically necessary, and how will temporary delays better for long-term benefits?
I would agree that, yes, it appears we are reactive, and I'm saying that we are, because we are reacting to aged infrastructure, we are reacting to the increased volume of traffic on the road. And even with our aged infrastructure, it's not just our road network, but utilities as well.
Yes.
So we are reacting to it. But when we react, it gives us that opportunity to also plan. So we do have planned projects while we are reacting.
Of course.
And we have, for instance, our Vision 2030 plan. And with that plan, it looks at the roadmap, not just for the immediate, but it looks at a future roadmap where we can have inclusive development. And as Officer Fraser said a while ago, there needs to be more dialogue, more communication with the utility companies when we are implementing projects, which we are doing now. Most of our projects, and it's also in our Vision 2030 plan, they must be climate resilient. You don't build as it was, but we build back better. So you have to incorporate the climate resilience in your design. We look at preventative maintenance culture. Many times, I often hear my senior minister say, for instance, you have a 25-cent pothole, and it goes into millions later or thousands if you don't address it. And that is correct, because we have this culture where we don't do preventative maintenance. The budget for maintenance is very small. And even in our private lives, we build a house, but we have nothing for maintenance. How often do we paint it? How often do we change something? Unless we see it completely termite infested, we say, okay, we have to. So we need to focus more on our maintenance and public consultation. That too is very important for us to be proactive in our maintenance.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you also for bringing in Vision 2030, because for St. Lucians, it's really important that they have a holistic idea of what the country has in place. That way that they would know it's not only reactive, although as you stated, because of our condition, because of our constraints, we have no choice but to appear as that. But them knowing that we have a broader plan would really, I guess, even with public interaction, the communication, they would see it as, okay, we're going through this now, but for a better tomorrow. Also, I mean, you mentioned the need for funding and being climate resilient, and everything is being taken into consideration in the Vision 2030, and that's very good. And of course, we have the Green Climate Fund that we can tap into those funds now. So again, it's progress, slowly but surely. And Mr. Barnard, from a business standpoint, are companies ready? I mean, we're discussing financing and how tough it is. I mean, I know from an economist standpoint, a lot of money has been put into infrastructure, but the regular citizen, they would find it strange that even with all the money that's being taken and placed in infrastructure from taxpayers' dollars, that is not enough to finance all that we have to finance as a country. So from a business standpoint, are companies ready to co-fund or champion smarter infrastructure or climate resilient infrastructure? Or which projects would deliver the biggest benefits for both the private sector and public, if you were to fund some of those initiatives, if possible?
Well, just going back a little historical, I think back in 2013, working with sustainable development, we looked at road congestion, and we looked at very cheap ways of alleviating road congestion, like slipways, middle lanes for turning. We always understand that when somebody turns left or they turn right, traffic comes to a halt. And in those days, members of the private sector were sitting down with sustainable development. We were looking at that with Carbon War Room, and we were saying these very simple, minimal investments could, pay dividends. Certainly, if we got DCA involved to say any building that is built by the road essentially has to put a slipway in so people can slip off and not hold the traffic before turning left. So those are very cheap ways of doing it. So businesses building by the road, essentially, you flow off into those businesses. We see it in the United States, we see it in the United Kingdom. It can't be done here. Very cheap, but it's just mindset. But as far as today's technology and so on, we can track our vehicles. We can know where our vehicles are. We have fleet managers. So we can, take all that data, and I believe in data. We take all that data, and I seem to recall we had some Permando data a few years ago as well. And we take all that data and maybe we feed it into AI, so AI can tell us exactly what we need to do with the data that we've collected. So collaboratively, yes, we can collaborate with Ministry of Infrastructure. They can know where all our heavy vehicles are. They can know the movement of the minibuses and the taxis, etc., and take all that data to inform their decisions going forward.
Wonderful, and I love the direction that we're going, because I was actually going to hint on what we can use, the tools, the apps, because like you say, it should be evidence-based. We cannot just, go with a project or go fund a project without a purpose and a basis need for it. So if we have that data available, and I know that infrastructure has a wealth of data, and we're still collecting as well. So if we can use that to better inform even the projects that we choose to move forward with, I think that would be really good. Mr. Yard and, Mr. Breastfair, do you see real potential tools in real-time apps? I mean, Mr. Barnard mentioned, using that and feeding in artificial intelligence to generate solutions even for us, or at least be a tool for it. Do you see real potential in tools like real-time apps or advanced scheduling, or do we need like simpler phased approaches? We have some examples, like I know TT Rideshare, or if we even look at in London or in Taiwan, how the transportation system is. Do we have the capacity for that right now, or do you think that we have to move a little slower?
Well, in essence, I'm not going to say that we should move a little slower. time is of the essence for us, and it is something that we have under discussion already, and it is something that we wanted to factor into the solution for our cashless system. We were looking at how we can track the buses and to provide scheduling opportunities for individuals through an app that you can take your phone and decide, okay, where is the next bus coming, what time is the next bus is about to arrive at your destination, and so on. It is probably I should say it is a little expensive for us at this point in time. So we are at a juncture where we are looking at the possible funding mechanisms, because we have had extensive discussions on this already. At least we have 3 different leads that we are following in terms of development of this infrastructure and the app. It would provide, one, the ability to pay cashless on any commuter bus that is participating into the program. It would give you the option of identifying the location of a bus in terms of its scheduling.
Nice.
And so on. And as well, it would give you the opportunity not to have what we call the transactional cost that if you were to use your private bank card or something, because there will be a transactional cost and so on. With this new system that we are trying to encourage, we're currently studying it, its benefits and so on, and as well as the cost outlay for us as a country, as a sector. So that is in the making, and we also want to look at the improvement of our fleet. But we still would have some challenges in the sense that the road network and its infrastructure has not improved to the extent that it can allow us, because, one, we do not follow the bus stop rule in St. Lucia. There are areas in St. Lucia where bus stops are virtually absent unless you come to a major intersection. Commuters expect the public bus to stop anywhere and to drop off anywhere, irrespective of traffic conditions, irrespective of how the traffic flows, irrespective of the safety. And we are also talking about safety here. So therefore, these are other issues that must come into play and must be factored in, and we need the support of the legislative framework to be able to do that. The assistance from the Department of Infrastructure, and even the way that new roads have been designed, and the current outlay of bus stops and so on is virtually absent. We look at the Millennium Highway, for example. Bus stops are in the opposite direction. How will that work? You know? So these are some of the things that we have put together. And again, as I said, the roadside clearance is another issue. In some areas, especially outside of the city, roadside clearance becomes a big issue because it really reduces on the size of the available tarmac that you have for travel. And anytime a bus stops, traffic comes to a halt. Another bus driver or another private vehicle tries to go ahead, by an accident occurs, roadblock. And sometimes the roadblock is for hours, because even the police have difficulty in arriving on scene to assist and to clear that roadblock. So therefore, we have a myriad of challenges.
We do understand those challenges. Yes, that's actually why I mentioned it's slow because of all of those challenges, because I was really speaking in terms of the implementation and possibly a timeline for us to arrive
we
at
are
what
looking
we were
at this time.
discussing
We are
earlier.
actually looking at this timeline, and we believe that, let's say, in the next, I want to be very, very optimistic. In the next 5 years, we should be
5 years?
In the next 5 years, we should be much further than we are now.
Nice. Okay. And I love that you all are incorporating.
There's progress in the line.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Well, Ms. Maki, you've already told us a bit about Vision 2030 for infrastructure. Is there anything else you would like to add for the public to know that we are definitely focusing on? I mean, you touched on climate change. You touched on a number of things. But is there anything else that you would like to add, just so that the public can have a holistic view of what the Department of Infrastructure has in store for St. Lucia?
Our Vision 2030 plan, like I said, it sets the long-term roadmap for sustainable development. It also looks at incorporating or updating, I should say, because some of our policies, even our Works on Road Act,
Yes.
it's a draconian policy. So it looks at upgrading these policies. We actually have started on updating our Works on Road Act and to have legislation and policy in place for that. So that the Vision 2030 plan would look at. It also looks at our increasing our efficiency on connectivity. So, for instance, you mentioned the back roads earlier and the relevance of them. So it helps us plan. We plan to improve the Sir Julian Hunt Highway, so we have started construction on the Viesikwi Road.
Yes.
Many times we say the back roads, but not everybody feel comfortable driving on those roads, especially for safety, for the width of the road. So not every driver feels comfortable. And even when persons use this road, they're not even cognizant of the fact that they are passing through residential area in some of them. You're passing through a community. So they drive very fast and furious, I like to say, in these communities, and you have a situation where the residents from these communities, they're not even able to cross the road and say hello to their neighbor in some instances. So that would increase a demand even on us putting traffic calming measures. Now, when we put the traffic calming measures, we have another issue, emergency services. So we're affecting the response time, but we have to look at safety of livestock, safety for the residents of the area. So we want to reduce congestion in areas. Like I said, climate change, incorporate that, and we must look at economic development. Economic development. So while we are upgrading some of these roads, and these are part of our plan, we also opening up the communities and the small business owners to have more economic development in those areas.
Okay, yes, thank you very much, and thank you for even mentioning the Sir Julian Hunt Highway. I understand that that's the reason for, fixing the back roads to a certain extent so that that project in turn would have a smoother flow. So thank you for that. And you mentioned again all of those different agencies, and I must state that, it's really collaboration between everyone, and I know that you all had a broad stakeholder consultation before the Vision 2030, just taking into consideration what exactly each sector would need or each specific service provider in terms of transport.
And it does not only look at the infrastructure part, it looks at transport department, energy.
Yes, the entire ministry.
The entire Department of Infrastructure, Ports and Transport.
Nice. Thank you very much. All of this, again, depends on one thing, which is collaboration. When road communication breaks down, accountability often becomes unclear. What would effective collaboration look like between, engineers, the police, unions, government, the private sector, and how can it be achieved? Given into consideration the Vision 2030, what could further collaboration look like for your departments? Is it that, there's always the talk of silos. Is it that there is not that connection that's deep enough for persons from the different agencies to reach out for infrastructure, DCA, making sure that, there are usual meetings to just connect and just say what each one is working on, so that way there's no duplication of work? Is there any further collaboration?
This is a very interesting question, and for us, everyone, when it comes to infrastructure, national infrastructure development, particularly our road network, everyone is a stakeholder. Every St. Lucian is a stakeholder. What we try to do, we try to have all stakeholders present when we do any project. We pass it through the utility companies. We have communication with persons with disabilities, the police, everybody. Recently, for instance, I met Officer Fraser at a meeting where we had to collaborate on a traffic management plan, because this is also a responsibility of my office to approve traffic management plans for projects. And sometimes you cannot just take the decision alone. You have to incorporate the police. You have to incorporate other business owners in the community before you can approve a traffic management plan. Also, in terms of DCA, for instance, some years ago, there was subdevelopments approved and infrastructure would not have been involved. But right now we are involved in in the subdevelopment approval. So the DCA would send it across to us. We give our comments, our review to ensure that the entire road network for that development, it at least meets our standards. Because once the development is done, we get the request for takeover. Now, if we have to take over a road, it must meet our standards. And the DCA even went further to ask us to do completion certificates. I think Lucilec, for instance, gives, WASCO, I believe, gives a completion certificate when they've installed their infrastructure. So now we have to go back to visit that development, look at the designs that were approved by the DCA, and see if it meets what was approved.
Nice.
So this is a further step for us to do the completion certificate. So there are many ways and many areas that we are collaborating. Ministry of Tourism, there is a project right now, I think close to the Sabuisha Beach, and there is a new road to be the cabinet approved. It must go through Department of Infrastructure. So it is not just us. You have Invest St. Lucia, Department of Infrastructure, and everyone involved in a touristic development.
Beautiful, thank you. And as we wrap up this segment, let's just look ahead. If you could each prioritize one innovation to transform St. Lucia's transport network, whether it's traffic systems, smart sensors, or climate resilient roads, which would you choose and why? Just for each panelist. What would be your priority? I know we stated all of the issues earlier on, but just to focus on one, to achieve one, what would be your priority area?
Since I have the microphone, my priority would be road safety. Road safety is a major challenge in St. Lucia. For me, many motorists are lawless. They do not adhere to road safety signs. They do not stay within the speed limit. And so that's one, looking at driving habits. Looking at our infrastructure now, you would have noticed that many areas you could barely see the road markings. Again, funding is an issue, but we have to prioritize critical junctions as opposed to remarking the entire roadway sometimes. So for me, road safety, proper signage, signals, that would be the main focus.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would have to say driver etiquette and signage. With proper signage and educating the public as to the signage, I believe we'll have a better movement of traffic and a better flow along our road network. Despite our challenges we have, the small roads and whatnot, as she indicated, proper road marking, proper signage, and persons being educated and understanding the purpose of the signs, I believe that would be a step forward.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bernard?
I like low-hanging fruit. So derelict vehicles on the road, any vehicle that's parked on the road that's not insured, so if your vehicle is not insured, it's not going on the carriageway and the government carriageway, put it in your yard. Low-hanging fruit, so signage. The other day I was coming up from View Fort in a vehicle, and as I passed through Dennery, I saw 20 miles an hour flash on my dashboard. And I never even knew the vehicle had that ability to see that, right? But I don't know if you all are trying something in Dennery or something, but I can tell you I slowed right down because I saw this 20 miles an hour come up on my dashboard. Now they told me it might be something to do with GPS or whatever it is, I don't know. But I've seen this in the United States and the UK, and it gets your attention. So whatever you do in vicinities to make that come up on your dashboard, and I think, I didn't know the vehicle had the capacity to do that, but as I said, I slowed down right away. I became cognizant of the fact that I needed to drive at 20 miles an hour. So trailer lights for 40-foot containers, I think is very important too. So that's part of the road safety. But low-hanging fruit, the things that are easily doable. If you dream for pie in the sky, like the highway from Beausejour to La Pelle, that's not coming tomorrow. That's 20 years from now.
Thank you. So we have a consistent theme, road safety. Mr. Yard?
I think it really has to do a lot with the road safety issues because with us, what we're trying to do is to provide a greater commuter experience. We want to improve the fleet that we have, and alongside with that improvement, we want to be able to have the systems on board that you can actually monitor and track the systems, because one of the things that people talk about is the regularity and punctuality of buses at certain times and so on, especially in evening and early mornings. So we want to be able to provide the commuters with that kind of experience, and also to be able to monitor what is happening so that they can arrive to and from their destinations safely. Alongside this, we want to see some improvements in the road infrastructure, especially the back roads when one road is blocked. For example, just recently we saw this issue in Bexon, and all the traffic had to be diverted through Sarot and into Badney and so on. And these inner roads are terrible, you know, and it creates a very big issue because, one, some of the drivers who now navigate these roads are not familiar with those roads, so it makes it even difficult for them to maneuver through it and so on. So sometimes we want the relief in there. I understand the financial implications, but of course we're trying to provide a different commuter experience to make the buses safer, to make it more comfortable and safe, so that we can at least enable people to reduce the private ownership of vehicles.
Thank you.
Yes, based on your question, I believe that road infrastructure is that one important thing for us in the sector that needs some immediate attention. I heard my colleague here said that that road connecting La Pelle to Beausejour, we might not be seeing it not in 20 years' time, but I believe this road is one project that any government should undertake. And the reason why I'm saying that, it's because the Badalin is very vulnerable to climate.
Yes.
Anytime we have hurricanes and
it's
climate occurrences, the Badalin is very vulnerable. And anytime there is any impediments in the Badalin, then that will definitely reduce productivity, because persons will have to all around the Soufrière area.
Yes, the connectivity issue.
You know, having to incur more expenses. So we definitely need a road connecting the Denry Valley to somewhere up in Babuno. Up to last night, I was looking at a map of St. Lucia, and I realized it's not a very large area that needs to be addressed, because I could see a road going down all the way down almost to the, how you call that area? Almost on top of the Denry Olio side. There's the Aslouvet area, and the road is almost there. So it's not much that needs to be done. But I would encourage any government, I want to say that publicly, to seek funding. Even though they have to put a toll, have persons that's using the road to pay for it, to fund it. But we need that kind of infrastructure to increase the island's productivity.
Nice. And I would just like to let you know that there have been discussions on that, so just to improve, your burden. Thank you very much, Andy.
Response driving is high risk, but we can limit that risk if motorists just obey the Road and Safety Act. The law says that you should pull over to the left, leaving the central area for emergency vehicles to navigate. And we have issues where not only that they do not pull over, they race, or sometimes they follow the emergency vehicle, adding to that risk. So we just want drivers to change their mentality, change their attitudes towards driving, to have a better and safer roads. Okay.
Yes, or perhaps they need more consequences. Thank you very much for that. So we really have the theme of road infrastructure, but above all, road safety coming out from this discussion. Does anybody have anything to add? We've had a lot of interesting ideas being brought up. Does anybody have any last minute things to add before we invite our audience to the question and answer segment? No? Okay. Thank you very much, each and every one of you. I'm sure everybody here has a better understanding of, the challenges that are involved, but not only the challenges, but the solutions, and even, again, Infrastructure 2030 and the consultation that has been happening, so that solutions can have a better idea of what exactly infrastructure is doing. Because when you know the vision, going through the process is a little easier. Thank you so much. So we have about 30 minutes for questions from the audience. The floor is open, so please feel free to raise your hand or come up to the mic if you have a question. Yes, Mr. Bana?
Sorry, I just want to bring something up, and we are on something called the TAC, Tourism Advisory Council, you and
Yes.
I, and the Deputy PS as well. And we all get together all the ministries to decide on the ways forward for tourism
Yes.
and so on. And I recall the conversation you were having a while ago, and you're saying, should there be a forum where, twice a year or 3 times a year?
That's what I was hinting on, yes.
That basically infrastructure does the very same thing. They look at what the TAC does, and they do the very similar thing at infrastructure. Because then you can engage with the private sector, you can engage with the fire service, the police are there. Everybody's at a TAC meeting. There's probably 75 people in the room, from agriculture to health to everybody. And it's a great forum to put problems out and find solutions. I just want to make that recommendation.
Yes, definitely. And that TAC meeting has solved a lot of issues. And of course, it has, removed the silos that we always speak of. So at least, even though it's one person you connect with at that TAC meeting, that one person can solve an issue faster. So thank you, Mr. Barnard. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, can you go up to the mic, please? Dr. Henry? Okay.
What those are very interesting discussion, I thought, and the issue of road congestion for me personally is one that I feel we need to find a solution for.
Definitely.
Unlike many who might be coming from Rodney Bay into Castries, I'm coming from the other side, from the East Coast, from Delhi. Interestingly, I recall when it was taking 15 minutes from the valley to get to Dingle Dam. It takes about 25 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes. So obviously, it is a challenge. I'm wondering though, and I'm happy to see my new colleague, and I'm wondering, and that's a question for you actually, whether there are any other proposed changes that can be made. Changes that can be made with respect to public transportation. I say that to say, and I like the ideas that are apparently coming out here in terms of potential changes. I hope not in 5 years, but even before 5 years. So, for instance, there is the practice of pretty much almost all the drivers moving at the same time. I know during COVID there was an attempt to make some adjustments to facilitate the lower demand at the time for transportation. Perhaps that structure can be re-examined. So instead of 100% of your drivers' buses moving at the same time, maybe a third or 40%, 50%, depending on what the estimated demand is. And for reserve drivers to do the late shifts. Now, some drivers take it upon themselves, I see, to do very late shifts to provide transportation to persons who are leaving work at 8 and 9 and 10 o'clock and even midnight, right? So I think we need to explore and understand a little more the demand dynamics in the sector and to respond to that. That's one. And the second thing, I'm wondering whether there's any consideration for sea ferry transportation up north. I mean, I'm thinking so many people are leaving their homes very early. A good friend of mine who tells me she has to leave all before 6 o'clock in order to get to work for 8 o'clock. I mean, this is unbelievable, right? Now, thank God, basically, has provided some relief to some extent. And I passed there recently, realized the work that's been done, that looks lovely. So maybe more persons will pass there. But the question is, just like we do for World Cup, we did for World Cup cricket, and even when we have some of the cricket events, I'm not sure if it's done for CPL, where you have the park and ride, you can have the systems that facilitate parking, and you take the ferry across if it's to be, cheaper and certainly faster, I'm not sure, right? But certainly assessing the extent to which there can be a mix of transportation systems to move people might be something to consider. And one last thing, I noted, I'm not sure, is it the case that toll roads come in?
The discussion has begun on the toll roads.
Yeah, I think for Jamaica, it did make wonders to have that Millennium Road, a toll road. You could move very quickly from one far parish to another in Jamaica now.
Yeah.
And there might be utility in exploring that. I will pay for it. I know I hate to be stuck in traffic for hours, even if the AC is running good. I want to get to where I need to. If I have to pay an extra $10, $20, $20 to do that, depending on the circumstance, I would do that. So, and for sure many other solutions are likely to do the same. So, this is just my thoughts. I don't know if there were any questions in there, but this is just my initial thoughts there.
Okay.
Thank you for your thoughts.
Let me just quickly respond to one of the things that Dr. has just mentioned. During COVID times, yes, there was this, what I would refer to as a skeleton operation, because there was reduced capacity and you could not have all the buses working at the same time. So that was a very critical time for us, and we continued pretty heavily with what we call the rotation system. So therefore, not all buses would have been in operation on any given day. So sometimes you would work every other day, meaning that if 7 days a week, you would work 3 days in the week, and another segment of the operations would do the alternative days. Given what has happened now, there's some areas, some associations that still have rotation systems. Some don't. For example, my association, we no longer have a rotation system because we are quite confident that the number of buses that we have and the way we apply the route, it provides the commuter experience that we desire. Fortunately, I can say I'm the president of that association, so I can channel the resources where I see fit. Not all associations have that capacity. And this is where we want to go. We want to build that capacity within the association so that they can really understand the dynamics and the flow of population movement and so on, and to adjust the number of buses in operation accordingly. This is one thing that we feel that we can do within the next few years when we have, let's say, if we are able to satisfy ourselves that this app can work, because it's something that is dear to our heart in terms of bringing in a new commuter experience. The park and ride is another issue for you. Well, some people already do it, but not on a very grand scale that they would drive the private vehicles up to a point and then take the public bus. Another area of concern is what we call, in fact, I don't want to call it a priority route. It's not really a priority route, but it's more like if you move in from Castries to Grosile, why should you take a bus that makes every stop, right? So you're talking about a bus that would move directly from Castries to Grosile or directly from Castries to Vieux-Fort without stopping. But what we realize is going to happen is, or even happens now, is the fact that even if you take a bus that makes multiple stops, you still get there at the same time because you're not able to move as quickly as you want to. One, there is, again, going back to the infrastructure that is available to us, very little road shoulders. The public bus is unable to pull off the road at many given points in time when it has to make a stop to put down a passenger. You cannot veer off of the paved surface so that there could be continued flow of the traffic. That is one. The other one is the safety of some of these bus stop areas. And people just have difficulty in congregating on some of those bus stops because of the safety issues. So there are a number of challenges that we will have to continue the dialogue on, just to ensure that we bring some kind of resolve to it so that we can create that experience. The ferry service is a very good investment for you, Dr. Clarence. Castries to Soufrière was one of those areas that we looked at a few years ago when we had challenges of the hurricane that had, because I did the ferry service at the time I was with the Ministry of Health, and we had to continue health services between Soufrière and Castries, and I did the ferry service many times. It is an area that we can re-examine, and of course we'd have to engage some other agencies like SLASPA and so on, so that there could be the facility in Castries Harbour for berthing and all of that. So it can happen.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes.
Good afternoon to all. I have questions. I have comments.
Okay, thank you.
On my way here, I may have missed some of the stuff that were discussed. I want to commend our panel and NCPC for coming up with this venture. The issue of road congestion is a sore point for me. It's close to my heart, and I'm one of those who quarrel every day on the road. And I have so many things to say here, but let me just address some of those I think that are salient. I heard Mr. Bernard mention earlier on that since 2013, I think they already looked at the issue of exit lanes since 2013. 7 and 5, that's about 12 years now, if my math is correct. Mr. Bernard, to you and probably others, have you seen any improvement in that area in terms of the exit lanes that can easily help with the traffic congestion?
No. And the reality is, but here's part of the reality of living in St. Lucia. Ministries don't talk to each other. So that forum was a Ministry of Sustainable Development that was talking about how do we cut emissions, so how do we cut congestion. We're talking 12 years ago. So that's one ministry. And you know where all those discussions are? Those discussions are on a shelf gathering dust somewhere.
But here is the point. I mean, what guarantee then do we have that after today's discussion, anything will happen for the next 12 years?
Well, I think we just spoke about having a council that maybe can meet 3 times a year, such as what we do with the TAC.
The Tourism Advisory Committee.
But here's the issue. If it will take us 12 years to insert a few exit lanes, these are soft issues, I believe, or soft interventions, I believe, that can really alleviate, one of the soft interventions that can really alleviate the traffic congestion. If it will take 12 years for something like that to happen, how long will it take for the Bon Séjour Road to Dennery? So I want to challenge us and all those that all those that are hearing us today, to let us try to put some more action to our talk. That's one. If we can calculate GDP, we can surely calculate the loss of productivity, right, due to road congestion. Can we not?
Yes, if given the right data from
That's right.
entities, yeah.
So have we conducted any sort of analysis in terms of the loss of productivity as it pertains to road congestion? If anybody can answer. Because my point is, if we can get what we are losing because of the road congestion, let us, for argument's sake, say we're losing $200 million per year. That's just an example. $200 million per year due to road congestion. But if we were to make a $20 million injection, you see where I'm going with that?
Yes. And just to answer your question, yes, with the road projects, there are feasibility studies, analysis being done. Sometimes, though, it's for one specific area, for one specific project. However, even bringing in cost-benefit analysis and looking at it from that standpoint, I think that we can take into consideration that, which honestly, as a department, the Department of Economic Development, we have started really taking that seriously in terms of we have some of the data, what can we do to allow this data to work for us? So in terms of cost-benefit analysis, which is exactly what you were referring to, actually taking in what is the cost if we don't do this, or what is the revenue? Well, we cannot say it's revenue, but sometimes, especially for budget, we look at, okay, what will this bring, how much money will this bring to us? But at the end of the day, if we don't do it, how much money will we lose? So that's where the cost-benefit analysis is coming into consideration, which I believe that can be done. So I'm just telling you that for now, there is economic analysis being done, feasibility studies being done. However, perhaps instead of just one project, we should look at it from a holistic standpoint, from my purview. So,
thank you for that. The last point I will say, because I know we have other people in the audience, when I look at the topic, road communication challenges and the impact on St. Lucia's productivity, we often think of the tangible stuff. But what about the stress levels? What about carbon footprint? You have so many vehicles in low gear, and you know, and we know, the more you travel in a low gear, the more wear and tear on your vehicle. Yes. These are all things that we have to look at. The stress, the impact. Yes. People having now to wake up much earlier to get to work on time, losing sleep, and that type of stuff. So we have to look at this holistically. It must be a priority for all of us. There must be education on that. There must be public education on that. And there must be the fortitude from all the powers that be to tackle this issue head on. Because if we don't, we will be in a serious quagmire. Again, I'm saying this is sore to me because I travel every day. I've been working from home since, what? Wifey, help me there? 2019, 2020? And it just hasn't been easy.
I understand.
And I want to see an improvement in that for all of us. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Montu.
Can I answer that one?
Sure.
And I have association with various hotels as well. And what they found is people living in the out districts basically find it, I hope that's not a derogatory word, the out districts find it difficult to get to work, very stressful because they may be single parents, etc. When they have to travel 3 hours a day, essentially to come and get a fairly low wage, and it compromises their family life and so on. I mean, this is causing a lot of stress. It's causing a lot of people in the out districts to say it's not even worth it anymore to come into Castries or Grosley to work. So that again is a deterrent. And going back to his first point, as I said, I've done the studies internally, and I can see that in 2001, 2002, I was delivering 10 tons of linen a day with 3 trucks. I am now using 5 trucks to deliver 4 tons of linen a day. So essentially it's driven up my costs significantly and made me very inefficient. And of course, again, from advertising my services, if you know that my service is going to take you that much longer, you maybe get the service done somewhere else or do it yourself. And then so the hotels are building their own laundries and not outsourcing to me. And I'm a local company, and they're doing their own thing. So it's actually impeding my business as well. So just want to make that point.
Thank you very much for adding on that, Mr. Barnard. And again, it does fall again on us doing the true cost benefits analysis, because although it's more difficult to calculate for the social issues rather than the economic, it still can be done to a certain extent. Like, okay, how much are we going to really put for stress? We should take that into consideration, because that is really what it is causing. So just making sure that we do highlight that. So when we come now with justification for the project, that we have a holistic sense of what exactly this project is going to solve. It's going to solve way more than, okay, the congestion, it's an issue, but it will also alleviate stress for a lot of our citizens, and as well as the tourists as well. So thank you very much for your questions. I'm not sure if, and your responses as well. I'm not sure if anybody else has a question. Yes?
Mine is more of a comment.
Okay.
I mean, I work at the Ministry of Infrastructure, and I know it says paving the way, road communication challenges and the impact on St. Lucia's productivity. And one of the words that stand out for me is road. Being a civil engineer, it stands out. But our senior minister always says it, and it is so true. If you look across the board, right, you look at health, tourism, all of those things, the one that you interact with most is our roads. From the time you leave your home, whether it be for recreation, whether it be for funeral, whether it be for prayer, whether it be for work, whatever it is, you interact with the roads, right? That's what everybody from child to elderly, they interact with the road. Yes. And road infrastructure, whether we want to admit it or not, is quite costly.
Yes.
All right? We have the vision 2030. There are so many things that we want to do. My chief engineer is there, my DPS is there, and they could tell you master programs done even before, budget requests done. But the thing about it is we have limited funding, and we could only do so much. And it cannot be something just on infrastructure. It has to be a collaborative effort. All of us must do our part. One of the issues we have with roads is, just like you said, lawlessness. There is no enforcement arm. No right turn, people go ahead and do what they want. There is no driving etiquette. Right now, we had to put a no right turn sign if you come out of Orange Grove. Why? Because a secondary road has now become acting like a primary road. When one person go, 20 people pass, and you're on the primary road, you're just stuck. You're not going anywhere. Of course, then you talk about the carbon emissions and all of that. So now you have to force the hand of the people. It's also a mindset of St. Lucians. It's a mindset. This morning I was driving, and you know, so many women pass, and I mean, I as a woman, I say probably I passed it, and it took a man to say pass. And the road is, I mean, in the intersection, they would block the intersection. So if you're going up, you cannot pass. They just choose to block the intersection. So it has to do a lot with our mindset as well. It's not just the physical infrastructure, but how we go about the approach and the collaborative effort. Like my chief mentioned, currently DC has picked up a stance where that infrastructure, any subdivision development that you're going to do, it has to go to the Ministry of Infrastructure. Because what we have had lately is that prior to that decision, that developers would develop land, they would not put the infrastructure, the people would come complaining. Then we have to bear that extra burden. Limited funding, now we have to do some extra road. And it's tight on our pocket because you have impromptu things happening, slope failures, etc. And then we have to reprioritize those funds. So I'm just saying all of this to say it's a collaborative effort. It's not something just a DIPT thing, but it should be a collaborative thing across agencies. All right? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you again for stressing that all the sectors are linked. Mrs. McKee?
Yes, and if I may just add to what my engineer has just said, when decisions are taken, decisions are not based on the only available option. We have to remember this. So sometimes a decision is taken and everybody, everybody feel they're an expert on things, and we want the information to get out there. We want sensitization, and the quickest way, social media. Somebody takes one photo and it reaches Africa, everybody knows what is happening here.
Definitely.
But when a decision is taken, it's not based on the only available option. So it's not like you've not thought of roundabouts and traffic signals and all of this. The decision is taken on other circumstances that you face. Timing is another. Timing may very well lead to the decision that you've taken. So it is always easy for somebody on the outside to criticize what is happening. But like my engineer said, when we place these signs, we need the public to at least cooperate. There is no cost on life. And even on our Vision 2030, we look at doing road audits. Road audits, when you're doing a road safety audit, it's a three-legged stool. You look at the pedestrian, the driver, and you have to look at the individuals who will be using those roads, the culture. And we need to have a cultural shift if we want to get anywhere. Aside from the cultural shift, we need to continue working together. There are many times we have studies placed on a shelf, as my colleague here mentioned. So a study is done, everybody says, there is an issue, let us try to resolve it. There's a gentleman who spoke a while ago, and he spoke very well. He mentioned a lot of things, necessary things that we have discussed, but they're discussed and officers change. Persons leave the job, persons leave the country, and they get nowhere. So we need to ensure together that these things are not just on a shelf, but we respond. We respond with action, and we get these things done in a timely manner.
Thank you very much. Continuity.
Yeah, I just wanted to add very quickly. When I was asked to be here, it was only just like 2 hours before this.
I'm very sorry, Mr. Yad. It wasn't because of us, but perhaps his calling.
No, it was not. But it's not
saying.
yours, but the individual who was supposed to have represented here.
But we're grateful for your presence.
And I had to fill in. So I looked at this thing critically and I said, wait a minute. If we're going to talk about road communication, the first thing that came to my mind, because I also did, as part of my studies, communication, I say, how do we interact with each other to make things happen?
Yes.
And one of the things that I've observed on the road is the very intolerance of individuals. You get to a T intersection. I am going south, you going east to west. How could you not stop for me so that I continue on if you can't traverse? You just block the intersection. So we all go nowhere. Because if I don't move, everybody, the 200 people behind me, are also stuck. Yes. And that slows down the traffic significantly. So therefore, we're looking at something we call the social behavior of individuals, or social behavior of motorists. The roads are already small. Too small that we can't even find the space to expand or to widen or even to go through your suggestion of the slipway, right? We can't do that. So therefore, we have to have something in place so that we can encourage people, hey, listen, you are not the only user. It will not affect you by a single added second to your commute time. I don't know how it happens. So therefore, we have to be a little more tolerant. We have to be a little more understanding of the flow of traffic, how it works, and so on, so that we can get somewhere. I could understand with your point of the delivery systems, because for us, it is just the same. When we were able to move, and let's say, for example, the commute time from my community into Castries, or originally was like 30 minutes, it's now 45 minutes to an hour.
That's very true.
You know, so it impacts all of us. So we have to be a little more tolerant. We have to be a little more giving, and to accept the responsibilities, all of us, in it together.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And as we close, I really want to sincerely thank our panelists for their valuable insights and our audience for your thoughtful participation. Thank you so much for coming. Today's discussion made one thing clear, and that is productivity and competitiveness depends on how we effectively move, how we communicate, how we collaborate, and how we innovate. So I think that's really coming forth here, especially in terms of the collaboration and the sense of continuity. So let us continue paving the way towards a smarter, safer, and more connected St. Lucia. We are very grateful to hear of all of the plans. It's just ensuring that it's executed and implemented in a timely manner. So thank you for being part of Annou Diskité, paving the way. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Stanza, and thank you every one of you in the audience who contributed, asked questions, and lent your voice to this. I was particularly moved by what Mr. Montoute added to the conversation, because as an employer, there is something that as of late has been happening, and it has given us reason to pause, and that is the psychological effects, the health effects on, this conversation we're having, the health effects on our communication, our daily commute, and how it seems to be eroding into our private lives and private times. Persons are waking up earlier, children are being dragged out of their beds half an hour earlier, and people get to bed later, and it affects how they perform at work. They get to work. I have a colleague in particular who gets to work and is flustered and says, I have to take the bus from Bexon and it's just too much. My son falls asleep on me. So by the time I get to work, I'm just disoriented. So I was happy for that contribution, sir. And all the other contributions, fantastic. I'm hearing about communication and the need for us to collaborate and stop operating in silos. And, we're hearing about the need for us to not just collaborate once in a while, but to keep the discussion going. And I smiled a bit when you mentioned, and it has happened to me, where the emergency responders are trying to make their way, and you pull off the road to allow them to pass. And when you're trying to get back on the road, there's always some smart person trying to race with the emergency vehicle. So it's a lot, and I'm sure all of what has been said here today is not new to us, but it's certainly a reality that has come to the fore from this discussion. And I'm hopeful that coming out of this, we can continue the conversation. As we say, it's not just about talking about problems, but for looking for solutions. And I think if nothing else today, someone mentioned the low-hanging fruit. I think for us, it's conversation. Conversation and taking stock of our own behaviors on the road. Because in as much as we would like to be well-mannered persons on the road, sometimes you can get frustrated yourself when you see what's happening, and that could lend to maybe a little anxiety or road rage or something along those lines. So it's to take stock of our own behavior and to be available when we are called upon to lend our support and discussion to those men and women who are making the roads what they are for us today, even though sometimes it can be a challenge. They try their very best. So thank you very much. Can we get a round of applause for them? And thank you very much, Stanza. And before you leave, I'd like to invite Director Montoute. Could you join us, please, as we share a small token of appreciation to our panelists this afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon. On behalf of the NCPC, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for your invaluable contribution towards this panel discussion as part of Productivity Awareness 2025. Thanks to the St. Lucia Employers Federation and the Department of Economic Development for organizing this well put together activity. Thank you, Stanza and Cornelia. and to the audience members for your contribution and suggestions. We appreciate your effort and contribution towards ensuring the discourse and the necessary actions that will be taken for rectifying the challenges currently faced on our road infrastructure network and thereby enhancing St. Lucia's productivity. Please accept this small token as appreciation for your invaluable contribution towards today's activity.
Thank you again, everyone, for coming to Annou Diskité, paving the way. I hope that our discussion will go forth and create the much-needed solutions that we endeavor to do. Thank you so much.